So Battle Aces has been it was in beta for a little bit. It is now out. We don't know when it's going to be coming back. Even I secretly don't know when the Battle Aces beta is coming back. I got to say, I had so much fun playing. When I first played it, it was such a different experience. I was curious if it was going to connect with everybody and how much fun would it be. Now that we got it out, I've talked to so many different people. It's been so fun. I cannot wait for it to come back. They've made a big announcement here. This was posted about 10 hours ago. So this was evening time in Los Angeles. We're early afternoon over here in Seoul. Dev Update 8.7, it says, hello, we want to talk about unit updates we've been working on since the end of CBT1 today. We've been iterating quite a lot, so this might turn out to be quite a long update. Over here, overall, we're having so much fun playing Battle Aces. There are so many more new combinations to explore, and team members who are strong at the strategy side of the game are having a great time with much higher win ratios against higher skilled players. Granted, higher skilled players will catch up quick. No ETA yet. Still on when the next CBT is due to continuing to iron out our planning of what exactly CBT2 has in it. I don't know what CBT means, but I assume this is just the next beta, open beta that people can play in. So for some of the changes, turrets. Closed beta test. Thank you, guys. It would be good for these posts if they didn't get so deep in those abbreviations, though. That didn't even occur to me. Turrets. Turrets have changed to anti-ground only and very strong for cost, countered by air or big. Also, heavy turrets have changed to be anti-air focused, also very strong for cost, and still shoots ground, countered by ground or big air. So the turrets did not have a huge role in all the games I played. I think I saw the turret maybe like twice, and that was maybe in the first 2 or 3 days, and it went away. And I think part of it's that it doesn't... The turrets at the time didn't really seem to serve any kind of function that you would not get from like a mortar. And of course, the mortar allows you to push, and it can have a fluid position. I do want there to be a place for turrets and stuff like that in a game. I think especially for new players, not even people that are new to Battle Aces, but people that are new to RTS games. I do think that a lot of times being able to opt into some kind of a static defense is just good for a new player. It's one less thing to deal with. You put it down there, you can at least focus on other stuff. I do wonder long term with turrets in the game, in my mind, if somebody made a turret and threw it down, I would just take a base because they can't attack me. And I don't think I'm the only guy that's probably figured that out. So I would be interested in seeing what kind of role turrets are going to play, or if you could maybe have a turret that could be upgraded later to something else. Again, Battle Aces, it's basically 2 game modes with the 1v1 and the 2v2. It seems like there's a lot of different directions they could still go in. But, yeah, I don't know. Let me read a little bit further here. We've talked about this before, but as we continue to explore making turrets viable and strong as a defensive play option, it creates an endgame issue when both players are maxed out on bandwidth due to turrets not having a bandwidth cost. So what we're trying next on this front is adding a bandwidth cost to turrets, adding an unsetup ability to turrets. And when you use the ability, it destroys the turrets, freeing up bandwidth. So I guess when they say bandwidth, they mean supply. Maybe that's what they were calling it before. I don't remember. But I think that's basically what they're trying to say. Because otherwise, yeah, you'd have somebody that just has a bunch of turrets that can't do anything. Turrets also aren't selectable by the Select All Army button. Overall, our internal team members who have always wanted to play a much more defensive playstyle are very much enjoying the turrets being more viable now. So, yeah, I see in chat somebody saying unsetup instead of scrap. That's a good point. Does unsetup mean you could relocate it? Like an unsiege? So, look, I think that's fine. I don't have a whole lot to add there. I kind of made all my points before we got to that paragraph. And for fun, in this image here, Who wins with how much left? 1 heavy turret versus 7 dragonflies? We'll put the answer in the comments. I don't know. Anti-air units. We have been moving towards having a smaller advantage between Tier 1 and Tier 2 AA options, or anti-air options, in order to lean more clearly into the Tier 1 choice of bringing 1 or 2 matter-only units. We also wanted to more heavily distinguish the Tier 3 anti-air options and have made some changes. Predator is back to being splash damage. Great versus air. Great versus most air, countered by big air. Predator is also moved to the Advanced Starforge. Okay. Advanced Bot is stronger versus air and moved to the Advanced Foundry. Great versus air, countered by splash. Advanced Blink as an anti-air unit. Advanced Blink, this is a unit I did not mess with, by the way. Advanced Blink is redesigned as a big unit that is also anti-air. Great for splash and big air, countered by anti-big. Also soft countered by small air. You can think of them as mammoths on the ground that also shoots air. The main reason for this is we wanted a more clear role for this unit instead of just being generally good or bad versus everything depending on the current tuning. And a multi-purpose big unit that is also anti-air looked to be a unique role that creates interesting situations. Okay. You know, I played a lot of Battle Aces. I do feel like I got to about half the units that I was comfortable with. There was a couple units I really didn't mess with, and I think it was kind of down to play style. And I think particularly in like the Advanced Starforge or Advanced Foundry, there were just a couple units that didn't gel with what I was trying to do. So I don't have a huge opinion on this, but you know, it's cool to see that they are making these changes. So you can see now the Advanced Blinks are much larger. I feel like they were maybe 50% smaller than this right now, but I think that's a bit more helpful to have here, and I think that's going to make an interesting role here for it as an anti-air unit, since it can more easily catch air units. It does feel like a lot of the games, when you go for air, with a couple exceptions, especially in the mid-game, kind of revolve around your air units never engaging their ground anti-air units. Almost always. I think with the exception of the cat bus games that I had at the end of the last patch, which were a lot of fun. Okay. Tier 1 anti-air units cost ratio. Okay, so this is something I was thinking about a lot in general with the game. We wanted to reduce the tedious math problem we currently have with the 3-to-1 cost ratio of Tier 1, since everything else that has an energy cost is a 1-to-1 ratio. We also, with the Tier 2 anti-air unit changes, so we made them 50-50 cost instead of 75-25. Also, we've increased their effectiveness against air and reduced their effectiveness versus ground to make the role overall cleaner. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. So, yeah, there was a 3-to-1 cost for anti-air, which always left you with this surplus of the other resource you had to dump into something else. Okay, so that's welcome. It does feel like a huge amount of Battle Aces is kind of trying to exploit the balancing act of their anti-air versus your air and or ground. Sometimes you can kind of offset them in a certain direction. I feel like I need to play that a little bit before I have an idea. Recall Shocker range. We've ended up increasing the range quite a bit and reverted the health buff we've done during CBT1. 40% higher now compared to, say, like a Shocker. Okay. Recall Shocker finally feels viable now. Was the Recall Shocker the Gecko thing, by the way? Recall Shocker finally feels viable now, but also, more importantly, they feel unique in their strength compared to the other Tier 2 Splash options. Yeah, it was a dinosaur-looking thing? Okay, thank you, chat. Curious how actual testing goes once you guys have a chance to play with them in the future. This is a unit I just didn't use. I think I had one game with it, but it didn't feel... it didn't feel useful. Shockers were already a little bit tough to control. It does feel like if you could get good with Recall Shockers, it's going to be pretty punishing if they overextend and they can just recall back home. Heavy Ballista. This was a unit I used quite a bit. Added Big Label. This one was just strange that it looks so big, but isn't actually big. So we corrected this mistake. We will work on tuning needed to make this work if necessary. Huh. So wait, now it's in the big category, is that correct? I actually always thought this unit was big. That's actually kind of funny. All right, well. All Splash units deal 50% less damage against big. So this makes me think of the mortars. So let's say King Crab is a big unit, a mortar is a Splash unit. And now they do less damage. Okay. It's going to feel very different when this comes out. In CBT1, some Splash units had this, others didn't. But we felt the clear relationship here made more sense in the new Counter Square. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This is pretty big because this is them basically breaking down the thesis for their game. Anti-Big is better than Big, which is better than Splash. So Big beats Splash, so King Crab would beat Splash. I would assume Anti-Big is like a destroyer, just to illustrate their idea. Splash defeats Small. Small defeats Anti-Big. So, okay. So they sort of have this wheel, this Ouroboros shape of counters here in the game. We've been testing it out so far, and the testing on this front has been going well. I guess I would be curious, and I mean, let me just read this thing first. Main problematic unit coming out of this change was the King Crab. So we've reduced their health, so overall they're weaker against non-Splash units such as Tier 1 units compared to the end of CBT1, but stronger versus Splash. So I kind of get this circular thing. Okay. Recall ability. Delay before recall increased from 1.2 to 2 seconds. Wow. Okay. Reasoning here was we wanted to try a slightly bigger penalty to recalling out mid-combat. Yeah, you know, it's funny. The recall does take a little bit. There's kind of a wind-up to it, but I guess... I mean, that's considerably more, which means you have to recall much more quickly. Chad asks, how can you play this game? Did they give out review copies or something? I was invited down to play it early on before anybody else got to see it, and then I helped film a commercial for it. I was also just in the closed beta like everybody else. But right now the beta's down, Chad. So that I think that's actually pretty good. I think recall is really strong. The more games I casted, like we did the Tassel Tussle tournament, the Battle Aces Tassel Tussle, and Recall looked actually surprisingly good there, but maybe making it something where you have to be very skilled to use is going to help quite a bit. Okay, so it says for advanced recall, Stinger no longer deals damage versus big. It did seem like there were these Stinger rushes that if you had the wrong comp, you just died. Because the Stinger's already really fast. If you had some kind of a comp that would tech into big stuff, you just weren't able to do anything because it was so fast it would kill everything. We wanted to clean this up because these don't make sense in the new counter square we've been testing, which is anti-big, defeats splash, defeats small, defeats anti-big. Stinger and Swift Shocker health increased. These were just slightly underpowered. Sorry, these were just slightly on the underpowered side during CBT1. So we've been testing small buffs to these units. The main difficulty for such fast-moving units is that we just can't go a bit too strong, or else these units would snowball quite hard. Yeah. Again, Swift. I liked the Shocker. The Swift Shocker I didn't really mess with, but yeah, we'll see where these units end up with those changes. I am glad to see the Stinger get a bit of a nerf there. I think it was good. It should still be good even without that. Bomber. Splash radius decreased, health increased, plus damage against anti-big added. Interesting. So these are a lot more tanky now. So it's going to be tougher to get in there and deny bombers.
You fucking scumbag!
I got to pause my alerts. Thank you, Never Clutch. Welcome, dude. 11 months, almost
Never
a year
Clutch
with you.
just subscribed. Loved the showdown weekend. Happy Sottergate grind.
Thank you. Bombers are small, and small beats anti-big is a new rule we've been exploring in our counter relationships. Anti-big. Okay, we got it. Overall, bombers are similar in effectiveness against Tier 1 units as CBT1, but they now also counter anti-big units such as the Destroyer. Okay, that's interesting. So you can make new combinations such as Crusader plus Bomber to deal with combinations such as Shocker Destroyer. Because Shocker Destroyer was quite good. In my final days, I was doing a lot of those builds. But what's interesting here is Shocker Splash beats Bomber Small. And Bomber Small beats Destroyer Anti-Big. So the positioning in combat matters quite a bit. It'll also, I think, matter what the default targeting is. I don't know if it's being made clear here for bombers, but don't they just go to whatever's closer? I know Uncapped Games is messing around with, like, this unit will default onto this or that, but that's, I don't know. You know, Battle Aces goes really, really fast. I think it'd be cool if they clarified if the bomber defaults onto whatever unit it counters or not, because this is what happened with the Destroyer. I think in one of the patches right before they closed the closed beta out. So curious to see how that unit pans out long term. The Raider. We increased the health of the Raider and kept everything else as it is at the end of CBT1. They are now in a slightly different spot of, if they can manage to get into the worker line, they can stay alive longer to deal more damage, but it is still very difficult to get there due to their low movement speed that we've seen during CBT1. We wouldn't say Raiders are awesome now or anything like this, but are a bit more useful than they were towards the end of CBT1. Yeah, I don't feel like we saw any Raiders. Wasps. Excuse me. We've reverted the Wasp damage versus workers change we've done in CBT1 due to other changes we've ended up doing during CBT1. Okay, so they pulled that back. 2v2 specifics changes. This is interesting. I think I probably only played 20 2v2 games. By the way, I like the 2v2 in the game a lot. Snipers deal less damage in 2v2. Mortars have less health in 2v2. Huh. It is interesting to see that they're going to alter units in specific modes of the game. I don't know if I like that, but they might have to do that. Huh. Snipers were a problem in 2v2, though. So I guess this at least makes it so that the mortars aren't as, well, can be killed off. And the snipers, even though they can chew their way through mortar lines, it's not as fast. These were the most offensive units in 2v2 during CBT1, so they were the first units we've tackled in 2v2 since CBT1 ended. And finally, I will leak this temp battle ace portrait that our artists have put into our internal builds. I like this. This is the Obama campaign poster, Hope. David Kim 9999. They can do a lot of fun stuff with the in-game portraits. And if this game's going to do well, they're going to have a lot of cosmetics they're selling inside the game. Okay, interesting. So we've seen these changes in Battle Aces. Again, we don't know when the next beta is going to drop. Hopefully soon, but this is cool to see what they're working on. I think the turret changes might honestly be the most interesting, I think, for overall gameplay. Some of the units that they buffed were units I just wasn't really using that much. But yeah, I'm looking forward to their beta coming out again. Let me know what you think in the comments about these changes for Battle Aces, what you like, what you don't like, what you think the meta might look like as the new beta comes out. And also, we just did the Tasteless TV Stormgate Showdown on this YouTube channel that you're watching this video on right now. So go check that out. We was live in Seoul. We had players flying in from all over the world. We had Artosis here casting with me. Like 2 days of casting, so I don't know, probably 8 to 10 hours a day. I'm not sure exactly how long the days were. They were long, though, so a lot of content. We're also going to cut each of the games up and put them on my YouTube as well. As soon as Battle Aces is back, we'll be doing more content for that, too. Yeah, subscribe and, turn the bell on, all the YouTube stuff. Have a good one, and I hope to see you in a future video. Bye-bye.